Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is G.N. Shah. Today, will be presenting you guys how to virtualize your FoxPro application. I know some of the folks, we've been there 2 years ago. I presented some cloud computing and other presentation, but some of the new folks there. So I'm going to give a little introduction about myself, but I'm going to shut off my screen so you can see the full screen my presentation. So let me shut off and then I can continue. All right, so here's my intro. As I said, I'm a Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft, but I have a pattern on language translation, for computer language translation. I have done many application development in FoxPro as a FoxPro veteran, so I have a good understanding about this great application. So I've been doing development. I've been doing the latest technology and architecture and redesigning for the enterprise application as well. So here's our agenda. I know you guys can, it is a little bit for me also new because you're going to see this after 20 seconds. So what I'm presenting right now, as you guys going to move on and see the presentation, if you have any question, I'm going to make the question at the end of the presentation. So it make it easy. We don't need to go back and forth since we have a 20-second delay in a presentation. I'm sure Rick here, and he's going to be helping me out for the questions, and I'm going to answer at the end of the presentation. So please hold your question or keep writing in the chat window. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about virtual environment, current industry statics related to the virtualized application virtualization. We're going to discuss some benefits of application as well as desktop virtualization. We're going to see especially Amazon AppStream 2.0 and the workspace. We're also going to discuss about Azure Remote App, Windows Virtual Desktop. And there's two more application services actually available in the market. You may heard of CIVSoft Infinity Virtual UI as well as Fox in Cloud, which is another service available in the market that you have to use. And we can discuss further in the details that why I'm suggesting AppStream versus other platform. So we're going to discuss some of the pitfalls that we learned when we were doing this AppStream installation for some of our customer application moving up there. So we learned some of the things that you need to take care of it before moving application to the cloud. As you know that these applications are going to be running on the browser, so you have to make some tricks. But it's not too many. I mean, it's not difficult, and it's just very simple and straightforward as we're going to discuss that. So that's going to be our guide to VFE virtualization. Then we're going to discuss a little bit pricing, how to evaluate different structure, and based on the popular solution, what should be the fit for your organization. And of course, then we're going to have our question and answer. All right, let's talk about a little bit about this. What's going on in today's world? You know, this pandemic has changed the social and economical landscape. And we never have seen this thing, you know. Now our social interaction has completely changed for time being. Hopefully it's going to be okay in end of the year or early next year when we have a medication. But because of this, now more than ever, enterprise and small businesses are embarking on their digital transformation journey to build sustainable, managed, and connected business environment to achieve enduring business value. And these organizations are disrupting their competitors and entering in a new market by innovating more quickly than ever before. And the same way they are their focus on agility and innovation, making it critical to streamline their software delivery and infrastructure. While there are several factors to consider in these organizations' infrastructure or digital transformation, this is critical to make sure all legacy applications running with high velocity. Companies are developing or consolidating their infrastructure and moving to the cloud. By doing this, saving cost and the centralized management. And if you look at it, what happened, and this is a report I put together, it published in February just before the pandemic. The Spiceworks did some survey and they came up. If you see in this whole chart, the biggest, the transformation is going on application virtualization. And that's the thing. I mean, it not happened. It's just before pandemic, and if they predicted it's going to be 2x more, even though people were suggesting that they're going to be virtualizing. I personally think it's going to be not 2x, it's going to be 4x more or 6x, or maybe 10x, because everyone has to work from home. Everyone has to work remotely. And we have seen that based on the report, they said that virtualization adoption expected growth from 29 today to 56%. And enterprise business, they're going to be adopt this virtualization technology 75% and desktop 69%. And similarly, small businesses, they're going to be doing 39 to 34% expected to growth. My personal view, this is since they presented in February, is going to be double as people are moving more and more on the cloud side and working from home. So when we talk about virtualization, there's so many different types of virtualization. And you can desktop, data, network, storage, server application. But our focus on today's discussion is only two types of virtualization, desktop and application. The reason we only discuss today is two types of virtualization because we want you to move your FoxPro application to move to the cloud, without making significant change in it. So you can have an agility, and flexibility to make any changes and publish this application right from your home to all of your customers. Most of the FoxPro application, they are used by limited number of users within the organization, and some of them exposed to the user when they have a web interface. Depending on your nature of application, you do need fast turnaround and have a centralized management. When you go to the virtualized environment, now you go Amazon and AWS, all giving you centralized control. So if you have a 4, 5, or 10 application, you just manage from the single dashboard. And since they are on the cloud, so your work mobility is 100%. You can work from anywhere, Security, some of the good managed service, virtualized services provide virus scanning and vulnerability test as an out of the box feature. So you don't need to worry about those virtualization. Even if you're using Microsoft Workspace, Amazon Workspace, or Azure remote desktop, they're all encrypted. So you don't need to worry about these features come as out of the box. So you don't need to worry about your security. And plus, your Windows always up to date because they take care of all of those updates at the backend side. This backup and disaster recovery, since it's running cloud, it's easily to manage backups. You can use cold storages where you can have your backup saved there. And most of the cloud services have a 99% uptime, so you may not have any downtime, but for disaster recovery, you should have a backup of your application. So when we talk about these different virtualization, we need to look at it, some of the companies that offer these service. Our main focus today, my focus today, is going to be AppStream 2.0 and the workspace that Amazon offer. And we're gonna see how we can create quickly these AppStream environment, and we can deploy our FoxPro application. Then we have Amazon do offer, Azure does offer similar service, virtualized desktop, and like Amazon have an AppStream, they have a remote apps. It's the same kind of a concept that you can install and deploy your application, and you can publish through the web browser. We're going to discuss a little bit about CIVSoft Infinity Virtual UI and Fox and Cloud. And there's another Citrix Zine App Essential. It is also similar type of concept that AppStream 2.0 came up. So when we see this AppStream, Amazon AppStream 2.0 is fully managed non-persistent application and desktop streaming service. You centrally manage and your desktop running right from there. You fire up, you can add as many as user just on demand. You can scale number of user, not just your locally, but globally. Your data center, your data all centralized location. So again, you manage easily. The streaming session automatically adjusts to the network condition. So this is another feature that Amazon AppStream offer. Based on your connection, they adjust their streaming automatically to your desktop or your laptop, or you're using from the iPad or any mobile devices. There's no printer driver needed because most of the AppStream apps, whenever you print something, they print automatically in a PDF, and you download and you can print that peer report to your hard copy. So it does not require to configure any printer or any third-party hardware interface. And we can discuss a little bit furthermore why we have this is a good thing, but at the same time it is a little bit limitation as well, especially for those applications who they have a hardware interaction or a hardware interface, and they need to retrieve some data from there, and that's something we can discuss furthermore, and I can happy to answer after the presentation. I downloaded this presentation, this small video. It's pretty good. It gives you a very good idea about what AppStream is, even though I mentioned, but this is very handy. So I'm gonna launch this video for you guys.
Greetings, my name is Matt Wood, and I'm here at AWS headquarters in Seattle to announce the general availability of AppStream 2, a fully managed application streaming service that allows you to securely stream desktop applications from the AWS cloud right to your users. The new AppStream lets you run your Windows applications in the cloud without any modifications and stream it to any device. Your users are always up to date and get instant access to the apps they need on the device they choose with a responsive, high-quality experience, just as if they were running locally. To use AppStream 2, simply install your desktop app on the AppStream instance of your choice, set your auto scale parameters, define access permissions, and publish your apps. Users can then start accessing them through the browser and start working instantly. AppStream 2 is available to use today. You can try it out from the AWS Management Console or take it for a test drive on the AWS website. Thanks a lot.
Great. So the similar presentation they have for workspace as well.
Greetings.
So as you see this remote desktop, they call DAS as well. It's a similar concept. I'm sure many of you familiar with virtualized desktop that you must have used or not. Then you can definitely take a look, because it gives you. I usually call desktop on demand. They call desktop as a service they're offering. So you don't need to worry about your existing laptop or anything. You can just use everything right from your cloud desktop service. I'm not going to run this presentation. I'm going to run another one, which is Microsoft Azure. They have a similar thing. They offer a little bit different. Let's see.
Today's digital transformation is driving every employee and every business to go further. So businesses are shifting to a desktop experience that empowers IT and enables employees to be more productive and more secure. But not all employees sit in an office, use only one device, or always work from secure locations. Windows Virtual Desktop, the best virtual Windows and Office experience delivered on Azure. Provide your users with the only full multi-session Windows 10 experience, virtualized in the cloud. Always up to date and available on any device. Optimized for Office 365 Pro Plus, so you can deliver the most productive experience to your users. It works with current remote desktop services, so you can migrate your existing Windows Server desktops and apps, quickly virtualize, deploy, and scale in minutes with unified management in the Azure portal. Unlock mobility, productivity, and security. with Windows Virtual Desktop.
All right, so beside Microsoft and Amazon services, we talk about three more services with CIVSoft Infinity, Virtual UI. This company has came up with their own UI layer. You can say the Virtual UI libraries that you have to recompile your code with that their libraries to make compatible with their server deployment. And you deploy the application, you can use it, but it has to use through their Virtual UI libraries. So there's dependencies, and similarly, Fox and Cloud does the same thing. They call Adaptation Assistant, FAA kit. You have to use that kit and to modify your application, and then you can deploy to their environment. They both are in the market. They both are available. The reason I stick with the Amazon or I suggesting Microsoft Azure remote app is because it does not have any dependency. Whatever you have developed, many years iteration and everything, you have a solid application. That's something you wanted to publish to your customer as you're publishing as of today in your desktop environment. And that was you're going to get from those two service provider. You're going to get here as well, but you do have to depend on and you need to use their kit to publish your application. And since they have their own private cloud, so you have to stick with it with their existing cloud model as well that they offer. So you need to select your solution based on the application requirement and infrastructure availability. I always thought for FoxPro have a three different factors you need to consider. First, you have a 32-bit application. Then your application is a desktop Windows Form application. It's not a web-based application. And the most important file system, which is DBF. It is not a port base that I can connect on based on IP address or in a port to connect and I can access. I have to have a file system configured to access my DBF. And when you're going on a cloud application, you need to make sure that every one of your users have access to those DBF files. So you can have a persistent connection with your database. And also they can accessing a multi-user session, they can work extremely seamlessly without having problem. So when you run these three factors, you definitely have to consider something can support this thing, and AppStream and remote desktop both does support this. But you need to model your environment to run your application, especially when you have a multi-user environment. And I will show you some example that how you can deploy application without making big modification. And this is my understanding based on my experience. If you have a 5 to 15 user, even though this company does not restrict any user limit, you can go as many as you want. But if you have 5 to 15 users, AppStream runs perfectly fine. It has, and especially if you don't have any external, application, hardware interface. If you have an external application interface, it's still fine. But if you don't have it, it's good for AppStream. There's no printer driver. Some of the printers you need it for a special, like if you have a payroll application or something that you have to invoices, you have to print on some specific printer, then AppStream is not a good idea to do. Because if you have that special printer, then rather you go to the remote desktop because you can install any drivers. And by the way, you can share your local printer with the remote desktop without any problem. So if you have any special hardware interface or you have a special printer to use, that remote desktop is a better solution for you to consider. But if you don't have any of those things, then AppStream is a pretty good idea to try. And if you're using a built-in reporting tools or you have anything which is part of your compiled executable file, is perfectly fine to publish to the AppStream. But as soon as you start using third-party tool, it is, by the way, possible, but you have to do some modification and you need to make sure those tools configure, and I will show you how to configure those tools in a minute. Now, there's common issues you need to, when before you going and setting up your virtual FoxPro application to the cloud. You need to make sure your centralized database, meaning if you have so many different databases running from the different folders, I would recommend that you should centralize and make modification to use the single folder for all of the database access. If you have a multi-user session management, it's perfectly fine. It's no issue. But just make sure if you're using some, there's many ways you can have a multi-user. If you're using any DBC triggers or anything, they may not gonna fire properly. So you probably have to make some modification. But if you don't have a DBC triggers to fire up based on the user multi-user session, then you're perfectly fine. Authentication, you will have a two type of authentication. One, your application authentication that you have developed, but you have to have another authentication that you need to log into the AppStream. And that's something, actually, I personally think is favorable because you can have a multi-factor authentication with that as well. Temporary table and cursors. If you're using heavily cursor, since everyone using AppStream from the single file location, that cursors, if they're creating randomly, that's perfectly fine. But if you're doing something specific with the like the local naming or anything, then you probably have to change your application because since it's the same file location for everyone, you may have some concurrency problem there. External hardware integration, drivers. If you're using a remote desktop, it's perfectly fine. You can do it, no issue at all. But if you're using an AppStream, the reason I'm keep emphasizing that external hardware or printers does not work very well because your application running on a browser, and browser have their own limitation. It does not give you full access to access your local resources. And because of that limitation, you need to think a little bit outside the box that, okay, my application have a hardware interface, so I may go to the remote desktop, not to go to AppStream. Integration with local application, which not move to the cloud. Like a mainframe, we have seen many FoxPro applications still work with the mainframe, interacting with the mainframe or other legacy application. And if you have that kind of an interface, then you probably have to make some change in the code because now your application not in the same environment. It is moved to the cloud. You may have a VPN connectivity between as a private network connection between your local infrastructure and the cloud. You can have that. If you establish that with your network person help, then you can have that connectivity established as well. Depending on the application side, you may see performance on the AppStream side because as big your executable is, that big memory you're going to be using on the browser. But you're not going to see any degradation of performance when you're using a remote desktop. So these are the common issues you need to keep in mind before you considering moving your Visual FoxPro application to the cloud. So guide to VFP virtualization, it is the same thing what I said, that you need to make little modification. You don't need to make a lot of modification. You don't need to use third-party tool or kit to recompile your code, but you do need to make sure that your application does not have any hard-coded DBF file path. You need to make sure your file path is configured in an INI file so you can put that URL where you're going to configure your AWS file system. Or if you're using Microsoft Azure, then OneDrive or SharePoint path you have to put there. You need to make sure single user access, copy executable DFL in the same folder. If it's multi-user access, then you have to configure map drive to put your DBF file there as we normally does. I think it is not new for any FoxPro developers. When you're using a remote desktop, create share folder, map drive, same thing what you do as of today in your current environment. It is exactly the identical interface. Is just the difference is that instead of your laptop, you're firing up a desktop on demand, and they're accessing your application from the central location. No difference at all. It is the same environment. It's just firing up on demand your desktop instead of you running application right your local environment. So prerequisite, when you're going to set up an application at Amazon Cloud, you need to have, of course, Amazon account, but you need to have an associate level knowledge of the AWS cloud platform. You need to understand Microsoft Active Directory, network, group policy and configuration, and understanding of the FoxPro code, of course, and the database. If you're using your network administrator, you can work together and you can publish this application very smoothly to the cloud without any problem. But you have to make some modification that you need to consider. So I'm going to jump to this Amazon AppStream that we have to use today. I'm going to demonstrating you. You will see three things we have to set up beside creating a user or creating a group policies. We have to make sure we create images and then fleet and stock. These are the common service you have to set up when you're setting up the AppStream environment. So just a perspective, the images is a contained operating system and your application itself in that image. So what you're doing is you're setting up Windows 2012 server or Windows 2016 server, depending on your requirement. You fire up that image, you log into that image, and then you build your application. They call build the application image. And we're going to see in a step-by-step. Actually, what you're doing is you're creating an on-demand EC2 instance. And that instance compile and save onto the AppStream environment. So whenever someone coming up, they have to use that instance. And that time, you come up with the fleet. Fleet is a vehicle which is taking your image and publishing and streaming that specific image to the user. So fleet, that's why they put this, is a vehicle that taking your image and publishing it. It is, you can run as many as, and it has a two type of instance. One called always on or on demand. I would suggest to go for on demand because you're gonna pay as you use. You don't need to run unless you have some processes running all the time. Like you may have one instance which is running your AG report, or you have some batch process to run on the FoxPro side. That was the instance you can use always on. They keep running all of the jobs and everything for you on the AppStream side. But for user, you can use on demand, so that way only instance gonna fire up whenever the user log in. The stacks, it's a part of the fleet process. It is as a separate menu option. We're gonna see in Amazon Cloud, but it is part of the fleet. Whenever you're setting up a fleet, you have to set up the stack in the same time. And the stack is consists of associated fleet user access policies, a storage configuration, and also you can define your scalability and number of users to be used this application. Plus, in a stack, you also define your storage and other configuration, memory, and processing as well, that we're gonna take a look when we're gonna setting up something. You can monitor and set up fleet storage policies right from the stack menu. It's the stacks menu. All right, so this is the application. You need to have a user ID for Amazon and to create AppStream. So let's go to my Amazon console. Let's see. I'm gonna switch my screen. Go to the Amazon. All right. So this is my console. I'm gonna go to another one. All right. So this is my application. Before I jump to the console, or maybe I should do the console first and then I will come back here. Okay, this is my console. So I'm gonna go back. log in to make sure everything is running. So this is my, this is my AppStream 2.0. I log in. So when you log in first time, you're gonna see this menu option that is coming up, history console. You're gonna type into the search AppStream 2.0, and when you hit that, it takes you to this screen. And here you're seeing your stacks that pre-set up. You're seeing your fleets are set up, and you have images, and you can see your users IDs and directory configuration. That's something we have done for local. Users report, and these are the standard you will learn as you're going to log into the site. Now, to start AppStream, to set up, you start from image, okay? And when you're setting up the image, you're going to go to the image builder, okay? And you can launch the image builder site. So if I go here, I see there's so many images available in a market. You see that the platform is Windows 2019 base. They have a Windows 2019. I'm sure there's a 12. You can search as well, 2012. Okay, here's a Windows 2012 R2. So whatever the image you need, you just select that image and go to the next. You define the name of your image, and you define the display name that will show to the list, and then you can select what type of the GPU or graphics or the instance of EC2 you're going to be using it. 4 processor, 6 processor, depending on your need, you can use. By the way, if you don't want to use any existing instance, and you say, you know what, I don't want to use this pre-built instance, I want to create my own, you can create your own instance as well. And that's the advanced level, and there's an option you can take a look. And I will give you guys some of the links that you can, step by step, you can go and you can create your own instance or own image instance. Okay, so this is the way you create image, and I already have image, because once you create the image, you have to fire up the image, and it takes 10 to 15 minutes depending on your image size you have selected. Then he create the instance, and then you have to run this image. So once the image is running, then you can connect to it. So I already have that running up. I set it up, image demo, and this is running up right now. So let's connect this thing. So when I connect to the instance, it shows me that how you want to log in. So from here, when you get to the image area, from here, you are in a Windows environment. So I select administrator access. Here, this is my Windows box. So everything here as a Windows, I can copy, paste, I can do whatever I want to do. Here, I have configured my local environment. This is my application folders. This is coming up the local, that directory I mentioned to you earlier, and I will show it again. Here, I mentioned to you the directory configuration. That's the directory I configured. So I'm seeing that all already copied from there. That's my local environment. Now, I mentioned to you, when you create image, then you have to create image assistant. This is the place you're creating your image. I create my data morph application. I set it up so you can add your app. So you can copy your app on desktop on this machine, or you copy onto the centralized folder, add here, and then you set up the application, the name, display name, your path, local path, or the path you have, whatever the path you want to use. I'm using a local path, so it is running right from this desktop. It's not using a network drive. And this kind of in this type of environment, you don't need a multi-user. You're just using this thing. I'm going to use the standard app setting. I'm not going to make any changes here. Next, test user, data morph, and launch. So as soon as I launch, it continue, and it's launched my application. This is my application that running up. Now it's optimizing the app launch experience. I'm going to go back. And I'm going to show you what is all other menu options are. So let's go step by step. So this is, I tested my application, and I'm going to give the name, and display name is going to show into the fleet. So I'm not going to do this thing. I'm going to close. I already have that, because if I save this thing, it's going to take time to compile, and it takes time to show on a fleet, because it is depending how Amazon fleet service pulling up all of the created images. This is randomly. It comes sometime quickly, sometimes it takes 10 to 15 minutes. So because of the presentation, I'm gonna skip this more. So this is complete. So here you set up your Windows box, you set up your application, and you tested your application that's running. So from now, you're gonna go ahead and set up your, so I'm gonna exit from here. Okay, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna go and set up a fleet. So I already have this data morph fleet set up already. This is running up, and that's the same, that's using the same image that I have created here. This one, AppStream image. So now from here, my application, data morph application running, I set up always on. Always on meaning is running 24/7. I'm paying for this, but I'm running some of my batch processes. And those batch processes does require my system to keep running. But if I need this system to be run on demand, so it's going to be off, and it's not going to be running status running. It's going to be off. Whenever you click from the stack, it's going to launch the image. So this is a stream medium. So similarly, my stack. So this is my stack setup for the demo. And now I can see, I may going very fast, but I can't judge or I cannot estimate how much you're gathering and how much information. That's a you can say bad side of doing a virtualized environment, because you cannot read your audience. You cannot see their interest, that where they have more interest. So I can stop and I can ask some question. But anyway, I'm sure Rick noting down all of the question. Rick, I'm not seeing your screen right now, since I have a notes that I'm reading from there. So step by step, I'm going from there. So we're gonna go there and see that. All right. So let's see where we are in a presentation wise. So we created our AppStream. We created our image builder. We have the image builder set up there. We connected the image builder. We have our image assistant set up. And so this is the additional information, and you will have, beside this, you can get another document that has a further step-by-step detail to make it so easy. So you can set up your first application without any problem. And if you have any problem, there's tons of information available, and you can reach out to me by email. And I'm happy to answer those questions as well. So if you're using Amazon FS Managed Service, Microsoft AD, Active Directory, or you're using a single sign-on, that's something you have to set up as well. And that is an advanced level. I recommend, it's not very advanced, by the way. I can, as a developer, I can set it up. I'm sure you can set it up. But if you still need some help, you can definitely ask your network guy or someone who has some experience with Amazon service. They can help you out. So this is, again, step by step. I'm telling you where the DNS settings set up, where the information going. That all is, again, very explanatory. Doesn't require. Plus, you can go this Amazon desktop. This is the desktop we're setting up. So you can go and you can take a look at more information from here. Okay, Amazon Manage. These steps, what I'm presenting to you right now, it is for multi-user environment setup for FoxPro application, where your application deploy onto the desktop image, but is accessing database from the network, or you can say map drive. So that map drive employee management I'm setting up here, all the user, and I'm setting up IMA, identity provider, for all the users. Here, some of the, so this is again another step. I'm quickly move on. This is the fleet setup we just saw, but here step by step, I have this set it up. And when the application running, you're seeing all the uses of your cloud from the cloud watch, how your CPU and other utilization going on. You can log into the application. So now let's see the application. So I created the application. You saw we have this application set up. We have the fleet setup. We have the stack setup. Now we can launch this application, right? Because I'm using a two-user interface. So I'm logging as in a private browsing. So I have to go to the other browser. So this is my, let's go there. So I set up two applications in this environment. Let's see, there. Okay, so this is my catalog. In this catalog, I have two applications. One EMS is a sample application I set up, and then as a premise, there's another application. And this is my map drive. If I click my map drive, I just go there, log in. I have to put the right password. Just 1 second. Okay, so this is my folder, the share folder. All right, so I'm sorry. I think something happened as a technical fault. I was presenting, and all of a sudden my internet is gone. So I'm connecting with the mobile connection. So I'm sure the speed gonna be well. It is Verizon internet connection, so should working fine. All right. So I think as per Rick, I disconnected when I was showing up the launching the application. So I'm going to exit from here. Okay, I'm going to disconnect this one as well, and I'm going to go to my catalog. All right, so this is my application that I already set up. I'm going to launch this. My employee is a sample application. Rick, let me know if you saw here that I launched this application. Did you saw that interface or not?
Yeah, I think that's where you were. This is perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so this is the application I set up without making any change. The only change I have made in this application is to connect to centralized DBF file through the INI file. That's it. Nothing else. Everything you're seeing, AppStream publishing automatically to the browser. So my application load, I see my list here, I double click, it's running exactly the way it's FoxPro running, and your screen size, don't worry about my color scheme, this is developer pick it up. And I don't know, you saw I made this modification, and I can make this modification again, I can make any modification, but this is safe, and this is the information saving right onto the cloud, as a multi-user. If I open another instance, no problem. It's going to be working right from there. Rick?
I see you.
Okay. I think I was on the mobile connection and my internet back, so they were disconnecting each other. So anyway, okay. I'm live, right?
You are live. Keep going.
All right, great. So I'm sorry for the technical difficulty again. Anyway, so this is the application running. I was showing you the reports, and I mentioned, so whenever you create the reports, it's running up right from there. And look at this control. It's a FoxPro default control coming up without making any change. When I print this report, it print automatically in a PDF. So you don't need to worry about any print driver or anything. You can download this PDF or you can print out from here as well. The reason AppStream printing this directly to the PDF to preserve the format of your report. Because if it's publishing like a HTML, you're gonna lose all of the formatting. So by having a PDF printout, you preserve all of the formatting of your report. So I love this simple way of doing it, and it's setting up this application. And I can have as many instances. I think I did mention I have one instance open, but if I open this as another instance, I can see multiple instances side by side. I think internet is running a little slow, so I'm going to be a little bit careful not to open too many screens. All right, so I launched the application, I set up application. Let me go back to my presentation. All right, so you log in and you set up application there. So let's talk about a little bit pricing structure for these application. So we calculated based on your standard instance, and if you're setting up the concurrent user, AppStream charge based on the concurrent user you are using on the AppStream side. So if you have a 5 user and instance using, you have to pay $72. You have to pay $379 for 5 user per month. It includes all their services. EC2 does not have any hidden charges. Whatever you have there. Yeah, if you're using a directory, for example, the centralized location, then you have to pay the directory service $89. So total, this pricing is actually for multi-user environment, not the single instance where you have everything deployed on your image. But here I'm using a directory services and authentication services. So my total cost $570 per month for 5 users. You can say $100 per user per month in that sense. Similarly, you have pricing structure for the desktop on the bottom, and it is a little bit complicated, but you're gonna go and you can take a look at how to calculate. I think if you set it up simple environment for the 5 user per month, 25105 is almost same pricing. Yeah, you're paying what you're paying for the AppStream, but it go a little bit pricey when you go large number of user. Plus, you have if you have any graphical uses of the application, like you using a GPU or anything. I'm sure there's no GPU in these applications, so they are simple, straightforward. So this is the Amazon pricing, and this is Azure pricing. You can have we can discuss if you have any question. I will be around. I can answer those questions for you about pricing. But this is what we have for today. We see how to move your VFP application to cloud, what are the services available in the market, how you can plan your FoxPro application to virtualize, and we discussed a step-by-step guide for setting up your first VFP application to AppStream. It all hands out available. I'm gonna give this thing to Rick, and he can share with you. Plus, in this presentation, you have a lot more information available as a bonus info. I put together carefully what you need, to set up a Azure application, or you have to set up Amazon application, Fox in Cloud, or Citrix. These all available in this list. It's a very valuable information. I'm sure you're gonna benefit from there. And if you still have any question, anything, you can definitely reach me out. Here's my contact, Ghulam Nabi Shah. I go by Shah. My email address is gnshah, Microsoft Inc. So thank you very much for listening. And I'm sorry for a couple of minutes disconnecting in the middle of the presentation. So from here, Rick, I can take a question if anyone have for this presentation. Sure. So I'm going to go back here.
All right, we do have some questions. Are there any issues with things like op locks when you're using a shared database under AppStream?
No, you're saying app log, right?
App logs.
App log?
App locks, where you are in a shared database. And
No, it worked perfectly fine in that environment. You don't need to worry about that. Consider this: if you set up your application through the map drive, it worked perfectly like your local environment. No difference.
Okay. What considerations are involved when using SQL Server as a backend database?
So if you're using a SQL Server, you make your life very easy. So you publish your application right from AppStream, and your connection, you have to deploy your FoxPro application, whatever the environment you're using. If you're using an Amazon AppStream, you can use there any data service, by the way. Any data service, meaning any of available data service from the Amazon side. If you want to set up your own Amazon SQL Server environment, you can set up and just connect like you connect in your local application through IP and the port. So no issue. You can set up FoxPro SQL, you can set up MySQL, you can set up anything, because your AppStream running as your desktop application, and it's connecting based on the configuration file to connect to SQL Server. If connection is established, available, it's just going to go and connect like it's connecting the local environment. So it is possible, and it is the same way you're doing in your local environment. The only thing you have to do, you have to set up the SQL Server environment within the same VPC, you can say, virtual private network.
Okay. With AppStream, do you still have access to the Windows environment variables to give you back, for example, temporary file location that is unique to each user?
Good question. That's a very good question. So I mentioned these are a little bit of limitation when you're working with the AppStream, because AppStream, you can have a local environment, but AppStream is using your database from the central map drive. I will not recommend to use any local Windows-based variables in an app when you're using an AppStream. It's rather you need to use anything. Maybe you can make a little modification, and you can create user-based folder in that map drive, and you can save your cursor there or any variables, and you can access right from there. So that's one limitation you have. If you're using AppStream and you have a local temporary things for within your image, which is where your application is streaming, you may have some problem with it.
Okay. Frankie Andreessen asks, what do you do when your internet connection is down?
The same thing what I did. I have to reconnect. I have to reconnect. So this is another, I will think this is another good question. You know why? Because if you're doing something, some transaction, and your application, it is that much sensitive that you do not want to disconnect, and if it's disconnect, it should resume where you disconnected, then you can use the instance always on. So you're not going to lose anything. Okay, so when you connect again, you're going to connect to the same instance and it's always on. So you're perfectly fine. You're not losing any transaction there. But if you're using on demand, your session is gone as soon as you disconnected. When you come back, it's gonna create the new session again for your connectivity.
Okay, a couple of questions on AppStream pricing. Basically, you had the slide up for a little bit. It looks like the app is about $500 per month, and the desktop is about $5,000 per month for a simple app. Is that correct?
No, it's amount same 500 almost for this small number of user. It go pricey when you go bigger number. A small number almost same.
Mm-hmm.
It is $105 per user per month, so it's just $500 per month for 5 users. But I put it, see, here's the thing. Let me share my screen again. I put so many other options that if you're using it, and I'm sure you will not use those things. Let me share my screen. Power Pro, I don't think so. You're going to be using a standard version of remote desktop.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question?
Yeah. Is there a way to shadow or support the user while they're using your application?
Shadow user?
Yeah, you're to come in behind them basically to support them by sharing the screen.
Yes, you can use that. Yes. So think about this way. If you meaning right from your application?
Well, no, I mean, right now, if a customer calls you up and says, hey, I'm having a problem, you can use any number of tools like Go to Assist or.
Oh, yeah. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Yes. They can open the browser. They can see your application. They give you the access. Right. You can use it like you're using as of today.
Right. Can I share licenses so that if I have 100 users, but they only use 10 minutes a day, that I don't need 100 licenses?
So AppStream charge as a concurrent user. So if you have a 30 concurrent user, you only pay for the 30 user that using the application and that number of minutes they have used. Okay. But if you have 100 users and they all concurrent one point of time, you have to pay for that number of minutes based on the 100 user concurrent.
Okay. Are the desktop sessions reentrant like RDP when you get connection problems like you had, or do they reset?
So desktop, you don't need to reset. You just start right from there. Again, they have a different type. If it's on demand, then yes, it's reset. But if it's always on, then it does not reset. You're gonna connect like right that place you disconnected.
Okay, and then if using always on, if using always on, the application gets shut down if the connection drops. Is that true with Azure as well?
I did not set up for Azure. I have not experienced to set up application or got a chance to set up on Azure remote app, but for desktop, I know because we are using the desktop for Azure. They are similar way of connecting the way is Amazon Workspace does. But as far as AppStream versus remote app, I have not checked, so I can't answer that.
Okay. All right, so that's all the questions I have that I could get. This is a large stream of chat. For those who didn't get their questions answered, Shah will be in a Q&A session afterwards for you to get in for more.
Sure, I'm here. And here's my information. Is anyone want to send me email, you can send directly to me, and I'm happy to answer and help you guys out.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everyone. Great job by everyone who arranged this software Fox online. Amazing how you guys have did it. Great job.